All right, Jim, our next question sent to CornyDriveThru at gmail.com from Corey in Atlanta. Hello, Jim and Brian. Love the podcast. I came across an interview stating Ole Anderson wrote in his book that the Steiner brothers killed the mystique of the Road Warriors. I would love to hear your opinion on this.
I can see... I've read Ole's book, and truthfully, I've read a lot of books, so I can't remember that one line in that 200-page book. But I can see him thinking that because the Steiners, the way Ole would have thought, the Road Warriors gimmick, the post-apocalyptic future, Mad Max and the Road Warrior and all that stuff, the spikes, the leather, the motorcycle, the whatever. And in here come a couple of fairly clean-cut, Scott was at the time, college kids, but they're jacked up to the point the Warriors are, and they're legitimate shooters, and they can move Hawk and Animal around, and for once, Hawk and Animal had to give somebody some ground, but the Steiners still looked like normal guys. They didn't work with the Warriors like Jack and Jerry Briscoe would have, smaller, more technical guys. They worked, smash mouth offense, as JR would say, right? Even with them physically. And that told people that, well, here's the Steiners, they're not normal people in terms of, you don't see people walking down a street like that, but they're college graduates or college athletes. These guys are supposed to be these fucking monsters, but kind of look the same. That may be where Ole was. Does that make any sense?
I think
Maybe
so.
not.
I think so. I mean, it was a weird time in 89 into early 90 because you had both of these teams. I mean, they met each other at Starrcade, that debacle.
I argued against that Iron Man and Iron Team tournament till I was blue in the face. And Herd was sold on making that an annual attraction. And that's the one annual time they ever did it.
Yeah, Muda was red in the face. He went home. But the Steiner brothers were kind of like the next generation of the Road Warriors. I mean, the Road Warriors were timeless in a sense, but they were also a product of their time. And they fit into the 1980s perfectly. The Steiners, in a lot of ways, the early 90s Steiners are kind of like the face of things to come, both in terms of what they're doing in the ring, but also just that kind of athlete. With the rise of UFC and everything, it's not a direct line, but the Steiners fit the 90s better than the Road Warriors did.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like when the Road Warriors met Bruiser and Crusher in Chicago. It was the end of one era and the beginning of another one, and the previous era didn't hold up well. But Bruiser and Crusher had 30 years, and whereas the Road Warriors only had fucking, 6 or 7.
And again, the Road Warriors had an interesting career because it was almost instant. Of course, Hawk wrestled some indies and indies. He wrestled for some territories, small territories in Canada and stuff. An Animal had like a brief cup of coffee in Atlanta as the Road Warrior. Once they became the Road Warriors, they took off from there. They had not been in the business long. What would happen if two guys like that came along today? How long would they be in NXT? Would they get to NXT? Would guys like that get the opportunity they got today in any way?
No, because it was only by necessity. Ole needed a heel tag team like now because he had fired. Well, Matt Bourne had either been fired or taken off or whatever, and it was supposed to be Matt Bourne and Arn Anderson. And so he got these guys and pushed them to the moon because he had a hole he had to fill, and the company was in need.
Holy Anderson.
Say it again?
You said he had a hole he had to fill. Holy Anderson.
Oh, for heaven's sake. But the point is, no, they wouldn't, because on any level now that people would see on any kind of widespread basis, they've already got way too many guys. They don't need to bring anybody in as an emergency and let's just push them tomorrow. They've never wrestled. We don't care. We're desperate. And if it was anybody, Hawk and Animal succeeded where that was tried a number of different times in a number of different places in wrestling in the 80s. The big muscle guy push him to the moon, have guys bump off of him, whatever, try to get him over face paint. They're the ones that really got over. The other ones, even if whether they were imitations of the Road Warriors or not in the fans' minds, they still weren't Mike and Joe. Those two guys did something with that gimmick, and they grew into, they didn't become goddamn Johnny Saint, but they grew into it enough to be able to work and do the gimmick and not kill everybody instead of fucking killing everybody. Poor Dennis Condrey, that was the last year that the Road Warriors, 1986, were really just fucking brutal in the ring, and then they started picking it up. So Stan came in right about the time they learned to work. Dennis had a lot of the brunt of the greenness.
So did Stan. Him and Steve in the AWA working with those two?
Oh, well, yes, Stan had already gone through it in 1985. We don't like the finish. We're not going for it. Do it our way and nobody gets hurt.
Well, is it a story that Steve Kearn's response, because he didn't hear them, was, what? And then as soon as
it was like, what? Well, Kern had a thing that he would do where he would just wander around in the ring during the introductions. He's kicking the mat and wiping his boots, and he's looking at girls in the front row. And that's when they went up to the meet in the middle for the referee's instructions, they didn't like the finish that Vern had given him, or whoever Vern's representative was. We're not going for the finish. Do it our way and nobody gets hurt. And Kern looked up and said, what? Like, that didn't register. And they just fucking hauled off and jumped him. Whoa, whoa, whoa. And Stan's like, God damn it. I'm not involved in this. Whatever you want to do.
You know, and one last thing on this. Everyone brings up Demolition as being a Road Warriors ripoff. To a WWF fan, it didn't feel that way. The Powers of Pain, it absolutely felt that way.
Yeah.
When Warlord and Barbarian showed up as baby faces with their babyface manager, the Baron, in a hood, it felt like they were trying to fool people into thinking they were the Road Warriors.
Yeah, and I can see that, and they weren't trying to fool people into thinking they were just trying to take the gimmick and, you know, put it on somebody that they had and could, in all honesty, pay less money to, because Hawk and Animal and Ellering at that point had gotten a certain cachet in the industry where they could demand some big money places. And well, we've told a story. Dusty put Warlord and Barbarian, the Powers of Pain, together to do an angle against the Road Warriors, and then I guess went out of his mind trying to hotshot everything in the summer of '88 and wanted them to do scaffold matches at the bashes. And that's when Warlord and Barbarian said, fuck. And they gave their notice and went to the WWF. Because neither one of those guys were going to be taking a fucking 20-foot drop. Even if they landed on their feet, they were 325 pounds apiece.
Well, Jim, you know, a lot of people, when they think of the Road Warriors, they think of the hairdos. But an underrated part of the look was the facial hair. The Fu Manchu mustache, which is almost hidden by the paint. But they have to spend a lot of time, and I have to imagine it must have been hard on the road in the 80s, grooming their face if only they had a friend with a service, like Harry's.
Well, that's right, because not only the grooming of the face, but the grooming of the head, because they had the stripes, the mohawk stripes, and they had the sideburns and the mutton chops and all those various forms of hair patches, and you ought to have seen the inside of their ears. And Harry's can help you out with all that stuff. You can just take and draw a circle around your head. And our friends at Harry's have the razor and the gel and all the good smelling stuff and the deodorants and everything where you can remove hair where you don't want it. You can make things smell good and feel soft. And I don't know if they have a thing that'll put hair on where you want it and don't have it. But I would bet you if you got on Harrys.com, that's Harrys, Harrys.com, and looked at so maybe they've got some hair glue and maybe, you know, people donate hair for charitable causes. Maybe they can sell you some bulk hair and you can glue some back on different places. But you can definitely take it off. That's no problem at all. And you're right, Brian, sometimes you wouldn't have a mirror in a locker room because you wouldn't have a locker room back in those days. You might be in a broom closet, or you might be in a boiler room. You might be trying to look at a shiny metal cabinet to get some kind of reflection so you could shave. Well, Harry's helps you out because they've got the 5-blade razor with the German engineered blades. Not only do these German blades stay sharp longer and give you a smoother shave, but they will not talk under interrogation. All they say is, I know nothing. I see nothing. And they've got the foaming shave gel.
Yes.
So you can foam that up and spread it all over you. And be careful now, because don't put it anywhere you don't want to shave your hair off, because it feels so good shaving with this fine razor.
Again, we're not talking about hair. We're talking about facial hair. We're talking specifically about the face.
The hair on your face or your sideburns or even the top of your head. You can use that too.
Again, let's not worry about the top of your head. Let's worry about the grooming of the face with Harry's.
In your face, part of your head, it just depends on what side you're on. But all over your body, you've got places that you might need some attention, and Harry's can give you the best attention to your face and your chin, and your cheeks, and your sideburns, and behind your ears too. That's another place where hair grows. But they've got, and I'll tell you what now, they've got a trial set. If you don't believe me, and I'm the soul of probity and also the picture of honesty, but if you don't believe me, you can try all of the Harry's razor and weighted handle and foaming shave gel and travel cover so you don't slice your fingers off. And you don't have to pay the normal price for the trial set, $13. You can get it for $3 at harrys.com/JCE. Again, the trial set comes with the razor, the handle, the foaming shave gel, and the travel cover. And that way you can get an idea of how wonderful it feels to glide this thing around your face. Just be careful when you're going up under your nose. You don't want to stick it too far up your nostril. But right now, the highest customer satisfaction of the shaving industry is waiting on you. A no-risk trial. Don't like your shave? No worries, it's on them. And you've got a convenient subscription option that you can cancel at any time, but you can schedule refills for as low as $2. Have you paid the big money for that stuff in the stores these days? I think not. Anyway, try it out for yourself and see how wonderful you will feel. harrys.com/JCE, the $13 trial set for $3.
That's right. Get your face smooth and kissable with Harry's. One more time, Jim, what's that promo code?
Well, now it depends on who you're talking to as whether you're going to get kissed or not.
What's that?
You might get slapped.
Valentine's Day is approaching. What's that promo code, Jim?
Well, I guess you should then shave some of the weeds off. harrys.com/JCE.